In today's presentation, based on insights from workplace expert Amy Gallo, we'll explore practical strategies to navigate conflict with a co-worker more effectively. Even highly professional and experienced teams can struggle with misunderstandings, communication gaps, and personality differences. But when people learn how to approach conflict with patience and emotional awareness, difficult working relationships can gradually become more productive and respectful. In this presentation, we'll explore how workplace conflict affects communication, teamwork, emotional well-being, and overall performance. We'll also discuss practical strategies that can help us move beyond frustration and ego protection toward healthier collaboration, stronger resilience, and more productive professional relationships. Workplace conflict can have a much bigger impact than most people expect. According to recent research, 94% of employees reported working with a toxic person within the past 5 years. Tension in workplace relationships is also considered one of the leading causes of stress for employees. And when conflict remains unresolved, it can reduce creativity, affect decision-making, damage collaboration, and in high-pressure environments, even contribute to serious mistakes. Emotionally, unresolved conflict can cause people to withdraw, overthink situations, or react in ways that don't reflect their best values. One major reason workplace conflicts become difficult is something psychologists call naive realism. This happens when we assume our own perspective is completely objective, while anyone who disagrees with us must simply be uninformed, irrational, or biased. A famous study demonstrated this clearly. Participants tapped the rhythm of a familiar song and predicted that 50% of listeners would correctly identify it. In reality, only 2.5% guessed correctly. The study reminds us that what feels obvious in our own minds may not feel obvious to someone else. Instead of immediately defending our perspective, it helps to pause and ask questions like, "What if I'm missing something?" Or, "How might another person interpret this situation differently?" Naive realism is a cognitive bias where people believe they see the world objectively and accurately, exactly as it really is. Because we assume our own perspective reflects reality, we often conclude that anyone who disagrees with us must be uninformed, irrational, or biased. This mindset can quietly intensify workplace conflict. When we become convinced that our view represents the objective truth, compromise may start to feel like giving up or surrendering something important. As a result, we stop listening openly and begin dismissing the other person's perspective before fully understanding it. But workplace disagreements are rarely that simple. Different experiences, pressures, communication styles, and expectations can all shape how people interpret the same situation. Recognizing that our own perspective may be incomplete creates more room for empathy, better communication, and healthier collaboration. Workplace disagreements often become more intense when both people focus only on defending their own perspective. Taking a moment to pause, listen, and consider another viewpoint can improve communication and reduce tension. Another important strategy is recognizing the hidden biases that shape how we judge other people. For example, we often excuse our own mistakes because of circumstances, while judging other people's mistakes as personality flaws. This is known as the fundamental attribution error. Confirmation bias is another common challenge. Once we decide that someone is difficult, we begin interpreting more of their behavior negatively. And affinity bias causes us to naturally feel more comfortable with people who seem similar to us in background, personality, or communication style. One helpful way to challenge these assumptions is by asking ourselves difficult questions, such as, "Would I react the same way if this person had a different role, personality, or background?" Conflict becomes much harder to solve when we see it as a battle between two opposing sides. Instead of thinking, I'm right and they're wrong, it can be more helpful to view the conflict itself as the real problem, something both people can work together to solve. Amy Gallo shares the example of a professional named Andre, who initially viewed his colleague Emilia as an opponent. But once he shifted his mindset from battle to balance, their working relationship slowly began improving. Sometimes changing the way we mentally frame conflict can completely change the way we respond to it. Strong workplace relationships are built through cooperation and problem solving, not competition. Small changes in communication and mindset can gradually improve teamwork and trust. During conflict, emotions can easily influence our reactions. That is why defining clear goals is extremely important. Research suggests that people who write down their goals are significantly more likely to achieve them. And not every goal has to involve becoming close friends with a colleague. Sometimes the goal is simply building a functional working relationship where communication feels less stressful and more manageable. In other cases, the goal may involve improving teamwork, increasing mutual respect, or creating better collaboration on important projects. When our goals become clearer, our behavior becomes more intentional and constructive. Managing workplace frustration is not always simple, because venting can have both positive and negative effects. On one hand, speaking with a trusted colleague can provide emotional relief, validation, and support. In some situations, it may even discourage unhealthy behavior when people become aware of social accountability within a team. However, there is also a downside. Repeatedly labeling someone as difficult can strengthen confirmation bias, making it easier to interpret more of their future actions negatively. Over time, gossip and constant negativity can increase frustration instead of helping resolve the actual problem. That is why it is important to vent carefully and intentionally. If you need support, choose someone who is professional, discreet, constructive, and willing to challenge your perspective instead of simply agreeing with everything you say. Healthy conversations should help create clarity, emotional balance, and better decision-making, not deepen conflict or resentment. Constructive conversations can help people think more clearly during stressful situations. But constant negativity and gossip often increase tension instead of solving problems. There is no perfect formula for managing every difficult workplace relationship, because human behavior is complex and constantly changing. Instead of repeating the same unsuccessful approach again and again, it can be more effective to run small experiments. Choose one strategy, test it for a specific period of time, and carefully observe the results. If the approach does not improve the situation, adjust your communication style and try something different. Flexibility and experimentation often produce better long-term outcomes than stubborn repetition. Therapist Salvador Minuchin once said, "Certainty is the enemy of change. When we become completely certain that another person is the problem, growth and understanding become much more difficult. Instead of immediately reacting with frustration, we can shift toward curiosity by asking questions like, what might this person be experiencing? Or, what could I be missing in this situation?" Curiosity creates space for empathy, stronger communication, and sometimes even unexpected solutions to difficult workplace challenges. Curiosity encourages empathy and more open communication. Even when disagreements remain, a thoughtful mindset can reduce tension and improve collaboration over time. Workplace conflict may never disappear completely, and in some situations, meaningful resolution may not always be possible. But many difficult relationships can improve when we approach conflict with patience, self-awareness, curiosity, and intentional communication. By recognizing bias, focusing on solutions, defining clear goals, and staying open-minded, we can create healthier professional relationships and stronger collaboration. Sometimes, even small changes in mindset and communication can completely transform the way we work with others. Every workplace faces challenges from time to time, but conflict does not always have to damage relationships. With empathy, patience, and better communication, difficult situations can become opportunities for growth and stronger collaboration. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.